So here comes our first crew down here at Boynton, heading toward the dock. Our guys sliding across the bow of the boat. These boats are always slick when we've got that solid bow like that. There's really no way to grab any kind of grip. But our guy slides across, puts his feet out to kind of keep the boat off the dock. And it looks like they're going to be okay. But he's... What? They're pushing the bow out, which is a little odd. It looks like they're going to try and turn it around, but that for sure doesn't make a whole lot of sense, as you can't load the boat that way, bro. I mean, he's holding the motor off the dock, basically blocking the whole ramp now as another boat's ready to launch as well. I wonder what the purpose of that was. But anyways, guys, welcome back to the greatest show on earth, and that is the Miami Boat Ramps channel. I'm your host, Broncos Guru, and today we are down here at Boynton Beach. And a little windy day, you can see the flag in the background. Always makes things interesting, but it's also low tide, which means we got a little dock blocker action happening behind us as well, which is always interesting at the low tide days down here at the boat ramp. But let's go ahead and get this one started. And it doesn't take long. The dock blocker is firing again as this crew right here wound up off into the middle of it, and they've had to get off their boat to try and walk it back over. But I mean, heck, you look at the guy the furthest out. I mean, like, he's less than knee deep, and at some points in time he's just barely ankle deep. Fortunately, it's a small boat. I can't tell from here. It looks like a little whaler probably, so it doesn't need a whole lot of water, but definitely more water than they can use the motor with. But they're trying to walk back toward the channel, but this is always a fast start. When I start seeing people hit the dock blocker, you know it's going to be an interesting day. This is one of those days where we're just at that right point in the tide. So basically at low tide, you can see it. You can see the sandbar itself. It'll actually kind of come up. But right now we're at that point where there's just a couple inches of water on it. So you'll start seeing people who aren't familiar with these waters accidentally roll over it and wind up stuck. Well, this one's not going to help as well today. So watch the boat that's coming toward us now. The way the wind's blowing is right to left across our screen, which means a lot of these boats, as they're trying to idle in the channel, are getting pushed toward the dock blocker. And we'll see people who wind up in trouble because of that as well. And that's going to make an interesting setup as this crew tries to push their boat back also. Because what's going to happen, the second one of these guys gets in the boat to try and fire it up, they're losing one person to try and keep them off the sandbar. And immediately once they get out of the water, the wind's going to push them back toward the sandbar. So we're seeing the guys start to work toward the stern of the boat, which tells me we're about to make that attempt. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how they pull it off. Because here you can see, watch the shirt of this kid up here. I mean, like, the wind is blowing today. So you would think they're back to deep enough right here. The problem is, again, one of them's jumping in the boat, but that boat's going to start pulling back immediately. So he's going to have to hold it there while this guy tries to get it fired up and get it going. So back over to the boat ramp. We've got the red boat that's kind of drifting off. Again, they came in, no lines on the stern, and that wind's just grabbing at everything today. So they're trying to get it pulled back over. I'm assuming if the jet boat's smart, they'll go for a starboard side dock and let the wind push them into it. But the problem is they got to get the red boat pulled out of the way enough to where they can get over there. So that's exactly what they're going to do, but this crew is struggling to get this red boat back. Again, another one of those situations, they don't have anywhere really to grab in the bow to try and walk it down with the flat bow up front. And somebody's probably going to have to get back on this thing and grab a stern line. Again, the wind wreaking havoc. This bigger boat was coming through the channel down here, heading toward trying to get out from the boat ramp, and the wind caught him and pushed him over on top of the dock blocker. But this boat's so big, they're blocking traffic now because this channel's really shallow. I mean, to give you a great example of this, you can see the marker right here, and the marker is dry. And that's not supposed to happen. The marker should always be wet because that's part of the channel you're supposed to stay in. But that gives you an idea of just how low it is today and how much all these boats are struggling just trying to leave the boat ramp. Boynton is definitely not one of those places I would recommend to you if you're looking for a boat ramp and it's like one of those super low tides. It's almost one of those boat ramps. You actually have to check that. You want to check the tide, and if you're at one of those super low points in a month where the water is really down, I probably would avoid it because he's back in the channel and he's stuck. Even in the channel, he's struggling to get himself pushed through, as you can tell here. And our next crew's coming in on approach. And they're going to have a tough time. I can tell already. Once again, wind left to right across the screen. The motor's not trimmed all the way down, so they're already losing grip before they get started, and they're going to go for a port side dock, which is the wrong one on the day. But definitely with the motor trimmed up like this, again, everybody's having to do it because the water's so low right now, but you don't have enough grip to be able to really maneuver, especially battling the wind. And they're learning that one really quick as the wind's grabbed them and is pulling them over to the other dock. But the easy step off, and it winds up working out okay for them, and they'll be good to go. But one thing they should note here is the channel's shallow, but the actual ramp area is fairly deep. So our crew's coming in on approach, but I'm confused as to what they're doing here. So there's a boat backing down the ramp. On the ramp they're trying to come into. And because it's a low tide, it's a little different than normal. At high tide, you probably could pull this move off and keep your boat far enough back where they could get in. But because it's low tide right now, I don't think there's enough room for them to do that. So they're coming in anyway, gonna block this guy who was already there on the ramp backing down from being able to launch his boat. Now you can tell they're trying to stay pretty far back. They're aware of the situation, it looks like. But I don't think you're gonna be able to be on this at all. So the crew backing down stopped for a second. But I mean, they were there first. They're definitely going to take this ramp. So this guy's going to get off. So, man, this crew might be just working with it, and they're going to roll with it. But the other boat's coming back at him. So he's on the dock, but it looks like they're talking to him now, like, bro, what are you doing? We're trying to launch. So he's got a line, but he's going to let it go, and they're going to have to move on to another dock. Now, the good news is they got a crew member here, at least, that's already on a dock. He can walk to the other dock and help them out. But, yeah, they're going to have to relinquish it. I was wondering what they were doing when they were pulling on, though. Again, at low tide, there's just not enough room. But they're going to have to wait to get out of here, but we're not. We're going to go ahead and go. Thanks for watching, crew. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Miami Boat Ramps. If you did, check out our other content. We have Wavy Boats, who does a bunch of great things down at the inlets. My channel, Broncos Guru, does some great comedy boating videos there as well. And of course, we got Boats vs. Haulover, where man and machine take on Mother Nature down at Haulover Inlet. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.